Hello, Phantom fans. My name is Sam the Happy Elf Olmstead. His name is Jolly Justin Irwin. This is the Dump and Chase Podcast. Another Christmas is come and gone. My new copy of Hockey for Dummies has already been put to good use. And even though Justin left out some vodka and edibles for Santa, he still somehow woke up Christmas morning with a hangover. So we took a week off and rested up, and now I think the world wants to know, what does Justin Irwin unwrap on Christmas morning?
Oh, appliances and something about having to appear in court. Oh, wait, I think that was a subpoena.
Was that left under the tree or at your front door? No comment. Okay. So for a public service announcement, if you are somebody whose feet are absolutely aching because you stood in the return line at Walmart on Sunday morning for hours because you had to return the $4 waffle iron you bought on Black Friday because, surprise, surprise, it didn't work, you should make an appointment with the fine people at Advanced Podiatry. A pair of custom orthotics could make all the difference when you're standing there waiting to return Baby Wet's-a-Lot because your child ripped its head off 5 minutes after opening the box. So check out our great and wonderful sponsors at advancedpodiatry.com and ache no more. So Justin, I would say we have a good show lined up this week.
Yeah, we've got something different a little later on. And I guess coming off of a win in Plymouth against the U18s, we're not going to have a bad show.
And we want to thank everyone who is listening along on either YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And of course, every Wednesday at 5:06 on westernreserveradio.com or on the Live 365 app or the Western Reserve and Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. And what can you hear on all of those platforms? How about a recap of the game in Plymouth a couple weeks ago that ended up being way better than we feared it was going to be? Maybe a preview of a New Year's weekend back in Michigan with stops in Plymouth and Muskegon. And to top it all off, we'll throw in our conversation with the hosts of Thunderstruck, the Unofficial Lincoln Stars Podcast, that being Brandon Anderson and Gene Cotter. So this is a first for the show. This is the first time we will talk to somebody outside of the Youngstown organization.
Yeah, outside of the conference.
Yeah, only took us 59 episodes, but here we are. So let's get some things started with some news and notes. Now, right off the bat, a new name has shown up on the Phantoms roster page. That is an 03 defenseman from the Czech Republic and a 2021 7th-round pick of the New York Islanders. That would be Tomas Maku. Justin, what do you have on the apparent newest member of the Phantoms?
This is a kind of a hard one to quantify here. Defenseman, he is an 03. A late-round draft pick of the New York Islanders. On the bigger side, not huge, but big, adequate skater, long reach, it looks like. He's been kind of up and down all over the Czech systems from their top pro down to all levels. So he's got an interesting breadth of experience. We'll have to see how this turns out.
Now, there was talk that he was expected to come to the USHL this year. Then, of course, the problem everybody was having at the beginning of the season, coming over from Europe with travel restrictions and visa issues and everything else. I believe you said there was talk with, who was it? Him in Omaha at one point that ended up falling through?
Yeah, I believe that's what I saw was Omaha was his expected destination. Not sure what happened there, if it was the travel restrictions or, whatnot, but somehow he got redirected, I guess, to Youngstown and is now showing up at least on the roster. So I'm not sure where we're at in terms of, actually getting him into town or, dressing him for a game, but interesting story to track.
Also, the rosters have been announced for the BioSteel All-American game, and while the format seems to have changed to where the Team USA U18 squad has been split in half and will be mixed with the USHL players taking part, there were no Phantoms, at least on the initial release, that were included. So at this point, my interest has completely bottomed out.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate they're making some tweaks to the format to, I guess, make it more fair. I can argue one way or the other on that. Maybe some Phantoms will be added later. I've seen this happen in previous seasons. Somebody can't make it, and oh, look, a Phantom shows up on the roster. But I'm kind of with you. I don't really have much interest in it anymore.
Okay, so after the break, we'll look back at the Phantoms' lone game before everyone scattered for Christmas. That was a 3-2 overtime win over the Team USA under-18s. Okay, and we're back. So yeah, like I said, the Phantoms only had one game on Saturday, December 18th, the final weekend before everybody took off for Christmas break. We did not have much hope going into this game, how it was going to go. We talked a lot about the special teams being a factor, could be a factor in this game if Youngstown played it right. And in a lot of ways, that's how it ended up playing out. So we'll get right into the scoring recap. So the first period, at the 15-10 mark, Evan Werner, whose name you're going to hear a few more times in this episode, picked up his fourth of the season on the power play, giving Youngstown a 1-0 lead that they took to the first intermission. Going into the second period, only 56 seconds in, Adam Ingram picked up his 14th of the season, giving Youngstown a 2-0 lead. At the 5:52 mark, the U18's Isaac Howard picked up his second of the season, bringing Team USA back within one goal at 2-1. And at 10:21, Cutter Gauthier, we're going to say, his 8th of the season, tied the game at 2. That was it for the scoring up until overtime. So yeah, the second period ends, game's tied at 2. No scoring at all in the third period. So we go to overtime, and it was gotten over with pretty quickly. 54 seconds into the overtime period, Trey Taylor picks up his third of the season, pretty much almost going coast to coast on that one, giving the Phantoms a 3-2 overtime win. On the power play, and this is something we're going to be discussing here in just a second, the Youngstown power play was 1 for 3. The U18's power play, 0 for 0. The Phantoms only took one penalty this game, and it was a coincidental minor. So no power play time whatsoever for the U18s. Overall in the game, U18s, they took the shots 34-24, which after the first period, they were leading 16-6. So Youngstown was able to pick it up a little bit in the later periods. Kyle Chevette stopped 32 of 34 in the win. So his record on the season now stands at 8 wins, 5 losses, 1 overtime loss, and 2 shootout losses, with a 3.03 goals against average and a .901 save percentage. So now Kyle Chevette has doubled his wins from last season in roughly the same amount of games played. So to break down this game, we're just going to jump straight into 4 points. So for listeners new and old, 4 points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories: what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and weekend MVP. And usually we play some game as to who goes first. Usually it ends up being me, but for my Christmas present for Justin this year, Justin, you get to go first this time. So this one game 2 weekends ago, what did you like?
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Merry Christmas. So I like the fact that we did not take penalties, or at least did not allow power plays. The one, like you said, the one instance was a coincidental minor against a team like the under-18s. That is money in the bank. You can't take penalties on them, not with firepower like that. And that was just amazing discipline. And, we know how hard it can be against those guys to play clean. So,
yeah, what I liked is right along those lines, just overall the special teams play. And when we had Andrew on the show a couple weeks ago, we talked about this, that 5-on-5, there was going to be trouble matching up with Team USA and the firepower that they have, their relentlessness, that the advantage Youngstown would have would be on their power play opportunities, and they would have to take advantage of it. So just simply going 1 for 3, that one power play goal, that's the goal differential in this game. You win by 1. They were able to get the one power play goal. So, pretty much what we talked about a couple weeks ago really ended up playing out, and most definitely played out in the Phantoms' favor. So, Justin, what didn't you like?
that first period, despite coming out of it with that 1-0 lead, we looked, to be a little bit behind them in play. They outshot us greatly. We were able to, get out of it unscathed, a 1-goal lead, shook it off, but that to me was the scary moment, was that first period.
I would say for me, the Phantoms really played USA aggressively for half the game. Like you said, they were giving up the shots in the first period. I mean, other than Youngstown coming out with the lead, it was a little, it was very lopsided in the shots department. But it didn't look like Youngstown was afraid to take it to them. Again, they were playing them aggressively. And they continued that all the way up through, holding a 2-0 lead. When USA started coming back and then eventually tied the game by, halfway through the second period, they started backing off. They started playing a little more conservative. Just those, the phrase we keep using, especially in the last month or so, those 50-50 puck battles that they were winning in the first half of the game. They were shying away from, they were backing away from, the latter half of the second period and through the third. More or less, they weren't playing to win, they were playing to not lose. And to me, I felt like the way they had played him the first half, if they would have continued that, they could have put this game away without even the need of going to overtime, but that's the way it ended up. Okay, so for you, what was your favorite moment?
I'm going to go with the Evan Werner goal. We're getting shelled in the first period for a guy, who, is kind of starting to find his scoring touch. For him to come up with that one goal of the first period, that was a, extremely important moment. You just kind of felt when he got that goal, okay, things are going to be okay. We can survive this.
Yeah, for me, it was Trey Taylor's overtime goal. And yes, you could say, well, that's the low-hanging fruit. That was the game-winning goal. Yeah, in my household, there's an extra layer to that. Because as we've talked about before, my 5-year-old son, his first ever favorite hockey player that he's had is Trey Taylor. Every game, if I'm watching on hockey TV, every game, where's Trey? Where's Trey? He's looking on the screen. Where's Trey? When I go to a game at the Cavelli Center and I come home, did you tell Trey I said hi? Did you tell Trey I said hi? So a very, very big Trey Taylor fan in this household is my 5-year-old son. So he just so happened to come up and jumped on my lap while I was watching the game and saw the Trey Taylor goal. And I, as he was skating up the ice, I'm like, there's Trey. And then he scored the overtime winner. And my 5-year-old got up and started running laps around the living room, screaming Trey with his arms in the air. So that was, in this household, that was a very big moment. And, like I said, yes, it could be low hanging fruit. It's the overtime winner. But Trey made a 5-year-old in Salem, Ohio, extremely happy that night when he picked up that goal, almost going coast to coast on that one. So this will bleed into your weekend MVP.
Trey Taylor. He's been fantastic all year. Solid defensively, but yeah, to lug the puck up ice in a game like that, and then not really contested. He just looks and says, "Okay, I'm going to fire this shot off," and that was it.
Well, and he had Ingram. They had the 2-on-1, and the guy on the other side of that 2-on-1 was Adam Ingram. So
yeah.
He had the option to make the pass. He could have made the pass, but he took the opportunity and he made good on it.
Yeah, they gave him the space and take the shot. Yeah.
And that may have been part of it, the defenseman kind of cheating over towards Ingram, and like you said, giving him that space because that's who he had on his wing coming in there. That maybe it just opened it up enough for him, to give him that shot, and he made it count.
So, yep.
Now, of course, I think we can at least mention as an honorable mention Adam Ingram, who again was incredible in this game.
Yeah, like you said, was maybe the decoy on the play. So, but yeah, I'll give you the other low hanging fruit here.
My weekend MVP is right back to it again, Kyle Chevette. With maybe about a minute and a half left in the game, I had tweeted out, irregardless of how this game ends, this was the best 60 minutes of Kyle Chevette's USHL career. I probably counted, and there was a few times I walked away to do other things. I think I counted at least 5 or 6 just point blank shots from Team USA. We're talking bottom of the circles in the slot. That it wasn't that he just stopped, he gloved.
Yeah.
Just these point blank wristers that he gloved. That's how far in the zone he was in this game. That he was flagging these pucks down from 10 feet away with his glove. They weren't bouncing off his chest protector. He wasn't deflecting them away. He was gloving them. I counted probably 5 or 6 of those. Just absolute short range sniper shots from Team USA that he did not struggle with one bit. I mean, he allowed the 2 goals. And I almost think you can blame a little bit of that on defensive breakdown, and kind of left him hanging a little bit. But I mean, he had to be sharp in this game for the Phantoms to win. I mean, he was everything the Phantoms needed him to be in this game to win, and he was all that and more.
Yeah, challenging. When it wasn't point blank, he was out on top of the crease, tracking the puck. I'd have to agree. At least in the top 3 performances of his career, if not the best.
And in one of those rare moments, myself and the USHL agreed, because after this weekend, he was named the USHL Goaltender of the Week. I mean, and that tells you something, because how often do you see a goaltender win that for only playing 1 game and allowing 2 goals? I mean, that really speaks to what he did in that game beyond those 2 goals, that he gets Goaltender of the Week off of playing 1 game and allowing 2 goals. Okay, so we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Brandon and Gene from Thunderstruck, the Unofficial Lincoln Stars Podcast. And we're back, and our numbers have doubled. A couple of new faces have entered the chat. So first off, Brandon Anderson is the Lincoln Stars team photographer, and Gene Cotter is the Lincoln Stars Swiss Army knife. From team official to billet, and by his words, a puck chucker. Together, they are the hosts of Thunderstruck, the unofficial Lincoln Stars fan podcast. I want to make sure I get that right. So BA Gene, welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast.
Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so I'm going to start off. I mean, we know we're certifiable. That's why we're doing what we're doing. What was kind of the inspiration for you guys starting this your Lincoln Stars podcast?
My inspiration was, there was a blog that was ran by Yeti, Tim Sattler, many years ago, the Black and Blue blog that covered a lot of Stars hockey.
About 6 or 7, he inspired me to start what I do. So
yeah,
actually.
So when that went away, there was kind of a lack of Stars coverage outside of what the Stars put out. And we all know how the league puts out their news. They don't.
I was going to say, what do you know that we don't?
Yeah. So I just wanted to start something, and I was trying to find a host, and Gene seemed like the perfect fit.
Yeah, and I'm just dumb. Brandon put out a call on Facebook and said, anybody thinking about doing a podcast? Anybody have a name? And so I threw Thunderstruck out there, and all of a sudden I'm co-hosting with him. So
he's the main host. I just pushed the buttons.
Yeah, we're almost to the point. It was 3 years ago where Justin was like, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and 3 years later, I'm still dragging his butt through the mud. So, what's the reaction been like from the Stars as far as your show?
From the Stars office, they like it. They kind of give us free reign of whatever we want to do. That's why the unofficial title's in there. But from the Stars, it's really good. Gene has more fan interaction than I do, so he talks to a lot of people at the games, where when it's the game's going on, I'm kind of busy, and I know obviously Gene's busy, but he walks around more than I do at intermission, so he hears a lot of fan reaction from the show.
Don't tell BA, but I hold autograph sessions in the North Zone, and that's where all that fan interactions come from. I get $5 per. I'm just kidding, BA. That's not really happening. I couldn't be more pleased with the interaction. We've had the Stars president on. We've had head coach Rocky Russo on. Cristiano Simonetta, the play-by-play guy, has offered us anything that we need. We haven't had him on yet, but the Stars have absolutely grasped this. They understand, and we've talked to them saying we are not trying to step on their toes. We're just trying to help spread the word of Stars hockey. I've been a season ticket holder since first year, and have not experienced a Phantoms game in Youngstown yet, but I can tell you, in addition to my real job, I was a sports writer for 20 years and covered 3 national championships from the field to Memorial Stadium for Nebraska, something that is in a distant past, but it doesn't get more special than home games at the Icebox when it's a really good game. And so I'm just hoping for the kids that get to play here that they get to experience that.
You guys have mentioned the Icebox quite a few times. What's the capacity there?
A little over 4.
Yeah, 4,500-ish.
Now, is it just a hockey arena, or is it like a multi-use? Like, do they do concerts there or anything like that? Or
it is, they've tried to do things like they have a car show every once in a while. They'll maybe come and throw some dirt on the floor and have a rodeo every couple of years, or a circus, something like that. It's actually used to be on the state fairgrounds for Nebraska, and literally about 2 weeks before the first game, they were holding the state fair horse show in that building. They got the horses out, scooped the dirt out, and a couple of weeks later, they were hosting Stars hockey there, and that's pretty much been exclusively what it's been for the last 25 years.
Yeah, when we say it's a barn, it's literally a barn.
But you guys don't get kicked out for Disney on Ice.
No. We have one of those big shiny new arenas down the street for that Disney on Ice stuff.
Okay, I see. That's probably for the best. Trust us.
all right, so a little commonality between Youngstown and Lincoln. That was before the season. The two teams pulled off a trade. You guys picked up Jack Silich, Jack Larrigan, and Mason Marcellus. We got Evan Werner and Chase Patella and some draft pick. I know you guys sent Larrigan off. How's Silich and Marcellus been doing for you guys?
We sent Silich back in a few games in the season. He's at Sioux Falls.
Oh,
now.
He's gone to wow.
Yeah.
Larrigan's going to be back. He's playing in the North American League. I think he's in Janesville right now as a 16-year-old. Coach Russo talked about that they needed him to go up to Janesville and get some more experience. I mean, he was getting plenty of experience, but we are an extremely young roster and struggling a little bit to score some goals. So I don't remember BA who came down in his place.
I think it was Ollie came down and kind of came down and we sent some Larrigan up.
Yeah,
so,
yep, that could be it. So Jack remains a Stars affiliate, but as BA said, Silich is now a Sioux Falls Stampede guy.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with this. You're only playing your own conference during the season. It's you start to miss things that happen on the other side of the league. Right now, who would you say? And I mean, I don't know if it's changed now with just everybody playing in conference. Who would you say right now the biggest rival for Lincoln is?
I say it's got to be a toss-up between Tri-City and Omaha. I mean, they're the in-state teams, so anytime we play those two teams, it's a battle.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tri-City out of there, and I'm just going to say Omaha. I think everybody's chasing Tri-City right now. They have put together a franchise that has staying power, but just the stuff that goes on between Lincoln and Omaha and has for, the history of fights in the stands and just the ill will between the fan bases. It used to be back before 9/11 when we played the national anthem, much like they did for the Dallas Stars. When you got the Stars and the Star Spangled Banner, the entire icebox would erupt in stars. Omaha got so infiltrated with Stars fans that they had to quit playing the national anthem. They had to play like God Bless America because they got tired of Stars fans being in their building and screaming Stars. So I will always say it's the orange and black.
So, for right now, for us, it's fascinating because, like I said, we're so focused on the Eastern Conference. We don't really get in that much with the Western Conference. So it's really nice having you guys on here for that. Last season, four teams were separated by 1 point in the final standings. And it seems, other than Tri-City kind of, a little bit of a lead, it seems more of the same is shaping up this season. I mean, what's it like covering a team in a conference where a good or bad weekend is the difference between like second place and sixth place?
I think that happened to us this past week, didn't it, Gene?
Yeah. We won on Friday night and we're in second place. We lost on Saturday night and we were in fourth place, 2 points out of fifth place. So there's got to be some separating going on. Some of the stuff that happened in Omaha has caused them to lose a couple games here and there. Tri-City's kind of pulling away with it a little bit, but it's a mess. Top 4 or 5 places in the Western Conference.
It just makes those games even more important where we got to pick up those points every time we can.
And Lincoln comes back after the break and they play Tri-City on Friday night. They play Omaha on Saturday night. And then they play Sioux City, who's, I don't remember if they're second or third, but the top 4 teams play each other right out of the chute coming off break.
I have Sioux City in second place.
Yep.
Yeah. Sioux City in second, Omaha in third, Lincoln in fourth right now, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize Sioux City was doing so good this year. Again, we don't see the West, so
as far as and this is kind of topic you see like on social media, on the forums and everything else, kind of people questioning if the leagues are kind of developing their own styles of play, not playing these interconference games and stuff like that. I went and looked it up. Like right now, like if you look at penalty minutes in the entire league, 8 of the top 10 teams in penalty minutes are Western Conference. And 7 out of the 10 bottom scoring teams in the league are Western Conference. So it seems like the Eastern Conference is playing more of a high scoring style of game, where it seems like the Western Conference is a lower scoring, I guess in some terms, much rougher version than what the East is playing. I mean, is that something your guys seeing, or has this just been par for the course for the Western Conference?
I think both. I think that it's both par for the course, but I also think that, I don't remember who we were talking to, BA, but we had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago about the different styles between, so last year during the shutdown, I don't know what you guys had at Youngstown, but we had 4 Portland Winterhawks that came and played in Lincoln, and just the contrasting styles between the Western Hockey League and the Western Conference of the USHL. They were used to playing a more skilled game, passing, a lot of scoring, and here the Western Conference is, as you pointed out, is more you go in the corner, you're going to get hit, and you better have your head on a swivel, and you're more likely to see a 2-1 or a 3-2 game than you are 5-4 or 6-5.
Yeah, we didn't pick up quite as many of the WHL players. We had none in Youngstown. They, I think, mostly went to one team in the Eastern Conference.
It seemed like a lot of the WHL guys came in the West Coast, or not West Coast, but Western Conference teams like Sioux Falls. I mean, they had Cole Sillinger, great talent there. We get 4 guys, and it's just a different style of play they were playing. I mean, it's more skilled, more finesse, where, we're more lunch pail kind of hockey. You bring your lunch pail, you go to work, you're going to hit somebody. And
that really showed with those guys from the Dub that were here last year, because we had 2 of them that came in and really excelled in the Western Conference because their game was adaptable and they were more grinder type, clean up the junk in front of the net. And the 2 high skill guys really struggled and were really frustrated, including one that was a 2nd-round draft pick and played 2/3 of the season here and didn't have much in the way of offensive production.
So you mentioned the shutdown. What was that like? I mean, we know what it was like here. What was it like in Lincoln as far as when the season was shut down here, coming up on 2 years ago now? And what was it like for you guys coming back the next season?
I don't know. I mean, for shutting down, for the initial shutdown, the Stars were actually rolling pretty good. We were making a playoff push. Things were looking really good for a playoff run, but when it just got shut down, it just like everything got sails taken out of the wind. And then when we came back, it just got pushed back. And I don't think we played a game until the day after Christmas.
Yeah. And the other thing that kind of complicated matters for Lincoln last year was not only was there the Rona shutdown that lasted over the course of a couple of years, but it also, there was a lot of behind the scenes going on, change in ownership and, some coaching stuff happening. And so there was a lot of stuff that impacted us last year. At the end of the year, if they would have stayed with a 16 playoff, Lincoln was a bottom feeder and found their way. So if they would have still had 6 teams in the playoff last year, Lincoln would have made it. But because of 4, and I don't think anybody wanted to play Lincoln at the end of last year because they were looking pretty good. But it's just an interesting around here because, Lincoln, if you compare the first 10 years of Lincoln hockey to the last 15 years of Lincoln hockey, it's kind of like the football team. We're still living in the past a little bit and hoping that we can relive the glory years at some point.
I've heard that from a few of the Western Conference teams, including one of your rivals.
Basically, as far as the West this year, being a little more than, a third of the way through the season, how are you guys liking Lincoln's chances?
Justin, I think, or Sam, what I see from them is a young team, an incredibly young team that's growing up before our eyes. And by the time we get to the end of the season, I'm going to be interested to just see how things come together. First off, our goaltending has been unbelievable. We have 2 of the top 10 goaltenders in the USHL in Cameron Whitehead, who's second behind Alexei Sergeyev from Tri-City, and Caden Emberko, who is with Team USA at the World Juniors right now. Those are two guys. He's like 9th in goaltending stats right now. We've got Aiden Thompson, who's one of the top 2 or 3 scorers in the league. Defensively, we are unbelievable on the blue line. So defensively, from the goaltending to the D, we have just been incredible. So if these young forwards can figure out how to start scoring, I really like our chances. It's been so weird because first off, we haven't played Tri-City or Omaha much, but we, I believe, are 4-0 or 5-0 against Sioux City, who, as you said, is second in the league. But then we're a combined 4-4 or 5-5 against Fargo and Sioux Falls, who are 2 of the bottom 3 teams. It's just we need to learn how to be consistent, because there are times where we are just unbelievable teams. The forechecking teams can't get the puck out of our offensive zone. There's other times where it's like we're in the locker room. Don't you think, BA?
You pretty much summed it up right there. I mean, that's why I have Gene on the show. He's the guy right there when it comes to the stats and what the team actually looks like. I just take the pictures for the most part.
Yeah, something he touched on is something I've complained about in Youngstown here for many years. Sometimes teams in the USHL have a tendency to play down to their opponent, the better teams, maybe try to coast. It's something I'd like to see changed in this league. Kind of a little bit more of the go for the kill mentality.
Yeah, I think Lincoln definitely needs to do that. Like Gene said, we just kind of play down to the teams that are lower than us, and when it comes to big game, we actually step up and we do pretty darn well.
And when you think about it, we don't have a lot of experience playing in the USHL. We have a lot of NOL experience. We have a lot of other experience outside of the USHL. And so, a couple of weeks ago, Caden Emberko had to stand up and come to his own defense because he'd been hit about 6 or 8 times, and everybody's kind of standing around looking at each other like, what are we supposed to do now? And you would think that would translate between leagues, that when your goalie gets hit, somebody's going to pay a price for it. Then we're starting to see the team come of age. I just hope they remember that and bring it back with them when they get back later tonight, actually.
Now, you see, that's interesting because that's a dynamic you really don't see in the Eastern Conferences these days. I mean, any team, you don't see them work in the dirty areas in front of the crease. So that's interesting you said that, because that's really not something we've seen this year, is it?
No, that's something we've been lacking in seeing.
So, Gene, we were talking a little bit before the show. Is there anybody on the Youngstown roster you might want to say hello to that you might have some previous experience with?
Absolutely. Evan Warner I billeted Evan. He's been in Lincoln a couple of times. He actually made his USHL debut in Lincoln. Came into town when, I don't remember if he was still playing for Little Caesars, and came down here just to work out with the team for a week. And that weekend, a couple kids maybe got in trouble. And so Evan actually kind of got an opportunity to get his feet wet in the USHL. It was fantastic. He's stayed here a couple of times when he's been back for camp. He was actually slated to stay here this year till he got traded to you guys. So I just talked to his mom last night. Turned her on to you guys. I actually text Evan quite frequently. I tend to, like I said, I've been worried about him because I know he's a high energy guy. He's used to putting the puck in the net, and up until the last couple of weeks, he's been struggling with that. So I'm regularly still trying to send him motivational quotes and some things that'll pump him up so that he'll help you guys out.
Yeah, we had oh Lord, was it up in Rochester?
Yeah.
The American Cup, after the Friday night game, after the game, Phantoms coach Brad Patterson was being interviewed. And one of the things he had talked about was Evan and how he felt his time was coming due. The work he had been putting in, and his time was coming, and it was the very next night when he finally broke through for his first of the season. Ended up going on a 3-game scoring streak. Now has points in 4 of his last 5, I believe now. So, the last few weeks, I mean, we've been seeing little bits of it all season. Seeing him putting it together, and it really is starting to look like he's getting there.
And that first goal was pretty sweet too.
Yeah, it was. Yes, It was.
He's an explosive scorer. So once he gets rolling, he will definitely be of help there for sure. I think that maybe getting his commitment to Colorado College probably got the weight off his back there. I don't know if he signed his national letter of intent there yet, or if he'll be back in Youngstown next year or not. But he's a special player when he gets it rolling for sure. Chase Patella, Winter Wallace was in Lincoln for a while last year too. So it seems to be that there's like a pipeline between Lincoln and Youngstown. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Rocky Russo is actually from Youngstown. Our head coach is actually a Youngstown guy.
Oh,
okay. Well, we had that pipeline going with Tri-City for a little bit, but that was Noreen and Kohler both coming from Youngstown. I think Tri-City was kind of ended up on the short end of the stick on a couple of trades with Youngstown last year. So I don't know if we'll be doing much more business with them anytime soon, but.
Well, that doesn't hurt my feelings if they got the short end of the stick.
Oh no, yeah,
shipping off your bad players to Tri-City, we'll take it.
I won't say who said this, but I'll just say it's somebody in the know. Had basically said to me, one of the reasons Kohler was unceremoniously let go from Youngstown was his penchant for building more for now than for later. So as good as Tri-City is doing right now, if that pattern holds, it should peter out here in about a year or two.
Something that seems to have carried over. I mentioned earlier we had an ownership change, which means we also had a head coaching change. But something that Chris Michael, the head coach last year, talked about was building a team for staying power. In other words, that's what Tri-City does. That's what Waterloo has done in the East or in the West. I don't know, necessarily. Seems like Chicago's kind of become a Johnny-come-lately over there, but it seems like the last 3 or 4 years they've kind of turned into one of those. But that's one of those, you want to get old and stay old. And so Lincoln started last year with this youth movement in hopes that they would, I don't know, what can you have, 4 overagers on your team? And I think Lincoln only has 1 or 2 at the moment. Then every one of their goalies is an 03 and 04. They have an 05 that's in the wings waiting to go. And so I really like, I don't know that they were expecting to have the success that they've experienced so far, but as I said, they're growing up and I think they're building for the long haul here.
Okay. So going back to your guys' show, I mean, you guys have only been on for a couple months now?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
10.
Yeah. 10 episodes.
So you've already had the head coach, you've already had the president, a great collection of players. I mean, where do you guys go from here?
Well, I think we need to have you guys on. So, now you've set the bar. So now we need to get you guys on. We had Santa Claus last week too, by the way. I don't know if
that's a big pull right there.
Yeah.
I would think Santa Claus to the Dump and Chase podcast would be a pretty big drop down. So
we're hoping for the Easter Bunny and maybe Cupid around Valentine's Day, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, just maybe save us for if times get desperate and you don't think a lot of people are listening. Give us a call. That's then we won't have to worry about language so much.
Sam and Justin, I don't really know the answer to your question. It's been just kind of as we go along, we're kind of figuring out, we're trying to model ourselves after what you guys have done a little bit. And, last week we've had a couple of former players on from the history of Lincoln Stars. I think we're hoping to have a couple of the people that are in the Stars Hall of Fame, maybe from the Clark and Anderson Cup teams from our first season on. We have one of Brandon Bolig, who's an assistant coach for Columbus, is a former Star.
Jared
so
Bull,
we'd like
Brandon Bolig.
That's what I meant. See, that's what Brandon does. He keeps me saying the right names. But we've had a couple guys who've made their NHL debuts, and Paul Cotter and Josiah Slavin. Anybody else this year?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know I talked to Josiah just yesterday, so sounds like we're just trying to nail down a time where, with the NHL schedules being the way they are right now, he doesn't know when they're going to be playing next or where they're going to be playing.
Might be a good time for us to get them into the green room right now, right? Since they're not playing anyway. But
that's the plan.
It's been fun just trying to figure out. Maybe you guys can help us out, because one of the things we're trying to do is get some input. Like Brandon said, we'll walk around the concourse and people say, "Hey, I love the podcast," but we keep asking for people, "What do you want to hear? What do you want to see?" And we're not getting a lot of feedback there.
Boy,
so what do you guys hear?
That sounds familiar.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at games, we'll get people, just give us like these absolutely wonderful comments. And it's like, all right, well, whatever you want to hear, let us know. I'll get back to you on that. So just in the meantime, you're just kind of left to your own devices. I mean, you're going to find things that work. You're going to find things that fall on their, flat on your face, and I just keep rolling with it.
I was going to say, I just keep checking Twitter for controversies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we found out about the Omaha deal. So,
Yeah.
And we found out that's all not true right now. So,
yeah, it's not a deal. Allegedly.
Nothing to see here, boys.
Big rug, big broom.
We've investigated ourselves. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Safe Sport investigated. No
outside sources, nobody from outside of USA Hockey that knows what's going on. Come in and take a look at this.
The lump under that rug just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It does.
Hey guys, what's your favorite Lincoln Youngstown memory? Do you have one?
Ooh,
I know mine off the top of my head. I know that one right away.
I bet yours is the same as mine.
Oh, yep. I'm sure it is.
That'll be Justin. It's been so long for me, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I wasn't expecting that, and it's been a few years.
All right, what's yours? And we'll let Justin react to it.
I know you're going to agree with me, Gene, but it's the Michael Bitzer, and I don't know your goalie's name, but I know his last name is Romeo. They had
Sean Romeo. Okay,
yep,
yeah,
center ice tilt.
Yeah,
first goalie fight I seen at home, and the place was rocking.
Yeah. I remember Romeo was suspended for 2 games after that. So, we had to put in the backup, and that was interesting. That was what, 12, 13?
Sounds about right.
Somewhere around. Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to go back into my archive of photos and find it, but I know I have it.
That wasn't mine, actually, BA.
No,
mine was one that they still show a highlight of occasionally during the intro, and that was where Jared Grohl was skating off a couple years ago, and the kid from Youngstown came over and sucker punched him, and then immediately wished that he hadn't done so, because Grohl absolutely throttled him after that. And I also love your uniforms, by the way. I love that color scheme. I'm a big fan of the Phantoms unis.
Yeah, it was the charcoal grays last year. That was probably my favorite so far. They switched over to the purple for their dark colors this year.
Was it last year or the year before they forgot to put the numbers on the side of their arms?
That's been a couple of times they've done that.
I'm like, the first time they played at the Icebox, and my daughter's like, something's missing on their uniform. I'm like, yeah, it's the numbers.
We had joked about under the previous ownership, the reason the team hadn't named a captain was because they didn't have an extra C to put on somebody's jersey. And it became more of a joke when they had traded somebody away that had a C in their last name. And then the next weekend, the team named a captain. So the joke was they just peeled that C off of the jersey so they could slap it on the front of his.
Nice.
Thankfully, ownership wise, times are a lot better now than they were then. But yeah, as far as your guys' show is concerned, I've told Brandon 1,000 times. BA, sorry, I'm still getting used to that.
No,
I've told him.
I've been called worse.
We try to keep it PG-13. So, but yeah, I mean, your guys' chemistry is just off the chart. You guys work so well together. And that's something people never figure out or it takes them forever to figure out. And you guys had that nailed right off the bat. I know in the beginning, I knew next to nothing about who you were talking about or anything going on in the Western Conference. But you guys do make it really enjoyable to listen to your show. So, I mean, right now, I mean, just, you know, as far as taking advice from us, just keep doing what you're doing right now because it's working.
No planning whatsoever. That's what we're doing. So we just fly by the seat of our pants.
We either under plan or way over plan.
Well, I loved last week when you had the president on there for the entirety of the show. That was fantastic. And
he makes it real easy because he's worked in hockey at various levels and he knows everybody. He's seen a lot. So we learn a lot when he's on. We let him take over.
Yeah.
I think we got pretty lucky a couple weeks ago too with several of the things that we've done. I thought Santa Claus was pretty good, but the week before that we had Rutger McGroarty from Team USA from the NDTP, who's a Lincoln kid, was born in Lincoln. His dad used to be a head coach here, and we had Griffin Jarecki on, and he stayed for the whole time. And Rutger didn't know that Griff was coming, and we sprung it on him, but that just brought a little something extra that was completely unplanned, but I thought it was pretty cool.
The chemistry between those two was incredible. I mean, those two rolled right off each other. I mean, so when you had you were that episode, you guys had everything just kind of just a firing on all cylinders there. Cause I mean,
the best part about that episode is we didn't have to do anything. We just let them talk.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right. So BA, Gene, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us. BA, where can someone find your show if they want to go give it a listen?
Pretty much anywhere you can find your show. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast. Just anywhere you get any major podcast platform you can get it off of. We don't do the
They
YouTube,
can follow us on Twitter. They could follow us on Twitter because we tweet out the link when it's ready.
Yeah, Lincoln's Thunderstruck Pod or Lincoln Stars Pod is the Twitter handle.
Once again, we've been talking to Brandon Anderson and Gene Cotter, the hosts of the unofficial Lincoln Stars podcast, Thunderstruck. So after the break, we'll dig into the Phantoms' final road trip of 2021 and the final road trip of this month-long stretch before finally returning to the Covelli Center. Okay, and we're back. So this coming weekend, the Phantoms have 2 games. These are the last 2 away games for the Phantoms in 2021, like I said a little bit ago. Also, this month-long road trip is coming to an end. So the weekend after, finally, the Phantoms will be back at the Covelli Center before they go back on the road for 2 weeks after that. But we'll get to that in a later episode. So starting it off with this Thursday, December 30th, the Phantoms are traveling back up to Plymouth to take on Team USA, the under-17s. This will be the 3rd meeting this season between these 2 squads. The first one on October 1st was a 7-4 win for the Phantoms. And on October 2nd, that was an 8-1 win for the Phantoms. So far on the season, the U17s themselves have a record of 1 win and 10 losses. That is 2 points that factor into the combined 14 points with the under 18s. But that puts them last in the Eastern Conference. Youngstown coming into this game with a record of 9 wins, 11 losses, 1 overtime loss, and 3 shootout losses. That is good for 22 points and 7th in the East, but only a point or 2 off from climbing right back at least up into the middle of the rankings. On the season, the U17s are averaging 2.36 goals per game. They are giving up 5.64 goals per game. Right now, they're sitting with a negative 36 goal differential after only 11 games. So that tells you just how bad of a start to their USHL schedule the U17s have been. Looking at special teams, the U17s are 15.2% on the power play and 73% on the penalty kill. Youngstown coming in 22.7% on the power play. That is good for 4th in the East. And they are 70.4% on the penalty kill, which puts them in 7th. So yeah, this is starting to look like a few seasons ago. I believe it was Jack Hughes' last year with the 18s when Team USA made the playoffs And the U18s had only lost like 4 games that season. And the U17s had only won 4 games that season, but points-wise, it was enough to get them into the playoffs. I'm starting to wonder if we're going to see a repeat of that this season, because so far, this U17 squad has been terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a little bit more lopsided than even that, but on the same token, you don't want to start overlooking them on the schedule.
No.
No. We're 2-0 in their arena this year between the under 17s and under 18s. I think it's a very rare thing for us to go 3-0. We're going to have to take the game seriously, but if we do, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's just a game they can't play down to them. They absolutely cannot. They've already done it twice this season. They just got to put their foot on the gas and just go.
Yeah, run up the score. There's no shame in that. They've done it to us.
Yeah. So moving on to the game on Friday, that is New Year's Eve, December 31st. The Phantoms will be hopping over to the other side of the state for another matchup with Muskegon. That'll be Youngstown's third meeting with the Lumberjacks this season. The first one on November 5th, that was a 2-1 loss. That was in the shootout. And November 6th was a 3-2 win for the Phantoms. Last weekend before the break, Muskegon has split their season series with Green Bay. Muskegon really had a bad start to the beginning of this season. They've really picked it up since then. The Lumberjacks only had 2 wins in their first 12 games. They now have 11 wins in their last 14. So they've been skyrocketing up the Eastern Conference standings. Yeah, so right now, Muskegon on the season sits with a record of 13 wins, 10 losses, 1 overtime loss, and 2 shootout losses for 29 points, currently sitting third in the Eastern Conference. Muskegon on the season is averaging 3.69 goals per game. They are giving up 3.88 goals per game with a -5 goal differential. And their special teams, and this is going to be something that's, again, is going to be a major factor in this weekend, is the special teams. Muskegon's power play at 16.9%. That is last in the Eastern Conference. Their penalty kill is at 69.3%, also last in the Eastern Conference. But Muskegon is winning games, and which basically means they're doing it at 5-on-5 hockey. So again, this is going to be another one of those. Youngstown will have to take advantage of the special teams, of the power play opportunities, which Muskegon is prone to giving out more than their fair share in a game. So yeah, this is going to be a repeat of the U18s. It's just Youngstown is just going to have to take advantage on the power play to have a chance with Muskegon, because right now they're winning. They've won 11 of their last 14, and they're basically doing it at 5-on-5 hockey.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, they had a bad start to the season. They've since made some changes, brought in a couple Russian goaltenders. They're pretty open and honest now about their pipeline to Russia. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, take advantage of the chances we get on the special teams. I think it'll come down to goaltending either way. So we'll see how it goes.
So we're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we'll give you a rundown of next week's episode. And that is our show for the week. We want to thank all of you for tuning in. We also want to thank Brandon and Gene from the Lincoln Stars Thunderstruck Podcast for coming on the show and chatting with us. Next week, we'll be back to recap this weekend and look ahead to the Phantoms' return to the Covelli Center and a pair of games with the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders. And again, be sure to check out and spread the word about our sponsor, Advanced Podiatry. You can get all of their info at advancedpodiatry.com. So as always, the Dump and Chase podcast is brought to you by hockeyfan.com, and be sure to check out our syndication partners at ohiohockeydigest.com. You can hear us every Wednesday at 5:06 on Western Reserve Radio or on the Live 365 app. The broadcast is also streamed on their Facebook page, as well as their Twitter account and on the Phantoms Facebook page. You can also listen to the show, sometimes an extended version, on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to us on those services and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. All of those links can be found on our Linktree page in the various descriptions and posts of this show. So before we go real quick, Justin, any New Year's resolutions?
I'm going to resolve to stop answering the door for strangers, or if I do, I'm at least going to put clothes on.
There you go. I think for me, I'm going to resolve to time these episodes out better. I really think with a little hard work and determination, I really think I can pull it